In this video, I'll be restoring and reupholstering a Parker Knoll armchair. I picked this up on eBay locally to me and I won it for just £5. I've been looking for one for a while for our office. As you can see, the fabric on it is pretty nasty and the wooden frame is badly worn. I decided to invest in some decent upholstery scissors for this project, and they came with some thread snips too. I'll leave a link to this set in the description box below if you're interested. I'm really happy with them. First, I used the thread snips to remove the fabric on the back of the chair. That revealed the wooden frame on the inside, which I found out was solid beech. The backrest was a shaped piece of hardboard, and on it was a date stamp, 26th of April 1979. Perhaps that's when it left the factory. The rest of the fabric was held in place with staples, and I worked those loose one by one with a screwdriver. And then I pulled them out with my pincers. Underneath the fabric was some wadding, which was actually in good shape, and underneath that was the foam, which was pretty worn and depleted, so I decided that I would replace all of the foam on this chair. It was held on with some glue at the top, but the rest came off easily. There were a couple of buttons which needed to be removed too, and I'll replace those later on. Next, I removed the screws which were holding the seat frame in place through from the bottom of the frame. There were yet more staples to remove and more foam to replace, but underneath there were some strips of rubber supporting the seat, which were in good order. They were still nice and tight, which was good. With all of the fabric removed, I could start cleaning up the wooden frame of the chair. I used a card scraper to remove what was left of the old finish, and it came off pretty easily. Fortunately, all of the glue joints on the frame of the chair were still nice and solid. This is a very well made chair, so I didn't need to re-glue any joints, which was nice. I used my carbide scraper tool to get into all of the awkward to reach areas. You can find links to a lot of the tools I use in the description box below if you're interested. With all the finish removed, I sanded the frame by hand with some 100 grit paper to smooth everything over and remove any last traces of the old finish. Next, I decided to stain the chair frame, and I wanted it to be pretty dark, and I had some of this dark oak stain. After applying it with a brush, I wiped away any excess with a cotton cloth. For finish, I decided to use some hard wax oil, which will pop the grain of the wood really nicely and give a long-lasting, hard-wearing protection. I applied 2 coats as thinly as possible as per the instructions on the tin, and I really like the way it turned out. I ordered 2 pieces of foam on eBay. The seller cut it to the size I wanted, and it arrived a couple of days later. The cost was £23. For the seat pad, I could use the old foam as a template to mark up the shape with a Sharpie pen. And I cut out the shape at the bandsaw, which works really well for cutting foam. I also bought some fabric on eBay, this mustard coloured velvet. The cost of this was about £18 and I was really happy with the quality. Here I'm cutting out 3 pieces, one for the seat pad, one for the back of the backrest and one for the front of the backrest, and there'll be a little bit left over for a future project too. Starting with the seat pad, I could place the wadding, which I didn't replace, I just reused the old wadding because there was nothing wrong with it, onto the fabric, placed the foam on top of that, and then positioned the seat frame on top, and I could start stapling the fabric to the underside of the frame. This is probably a good time to point out that I am not an expert at upholstery, but I have done a little bit before. I kind of just make it up as I go along, so if you're watching this and you're a professional upholsterer, feel free to laugh at my techniques or suggest ways I can improve in the comment section below. I stapled the middle of the front edge and then pulled the fabric taut and did the middle of the back edge. And then I concentrated on getting the corners neat and tidy. And this fold here and the row of staples will be hidden by the frame of the chair when the seat is added later. I then did the sides and then the back corners. So far so good, and I sat down to test out the new foam and it felt pretty good. Then I could secure the seat frame back onto the chair frame by re-adding the screws. Next, I'd work on the backrest. I started by measuring the bottom, which was the widest point, and then I marked that out roughly onto some foam and cut away the excess at the bandsaw. I could then position the foam in place and use the backrest as a template to mark up the perfect shape for the foam. And then again I cut away the excess. Again I re-added the old wadding. And then I added the new fabric, and stapling the top edge seemed to be the best place to start, so that's what I did. Before securing the sides, I wanted to add the buttons, and I bought some new black velvet buttons, again on eBay. These were just £3, and I had some good quality thread and a leather needle already from a previous project when I made a wallet out of some salvaged leather a couple of years ago. I thought that the black would look really nice on top of the mustard to make a bit of a feature of the buttons. I threaded the needle and then I added a large washer to the end of the thread to stop it pulling through the hole at the back. And then I could thread the button on. I then secured the thread to the washer at the back. And to get the right level of tension that I wanted on the buttons, I cut a couple of pieces of the foam to wedge in between the washers and the backrest. I could then secure the fabric at the sides. And when I got down to where the arms are, this was undoubtedly the part that I found most difficult on the whole chair, as I had to make a couple of cuts to get the fabric positioned around it, and to be honest, I didn't do the job as well as I'd hoped, but I'm still learning. I could then tuck the fabric underneath and secure it with staples to the bottom of the frame. And then I could work on getting the top corners nice and tidy. The final piece of fabric to be added was for the back, and for this I bought some of this tack strip. I chose black to match the buttons. This was from eBay too, cost was about £6, and I started at the top, folding the fabric over and then adding the tacks into the holes in the tack strips. I've never used this before, but it worked pretty well and it wasn't too difficult. You basically just add in the tacks wherever there's a gap. And after doing the top, I did the sides. I deliberately left a small gap at the corners, the width of one of the tacks, so that I could add another one there.
And how did you do that? Like, that's fun. That's films, I think, when you
joined us. It's Delia Derbyshire Day this weekend, so people's place.
At the bottom corners, I cut away a bit of the fabric and secured the bottom with more staples. And then I worked on tidying up the corners. That's the chair complete, and it isn't perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, to be honest, and it now looks really good in our office. I can now sit here and watch the birds come and go, which will be really nice. But it does need one more thing, a footstool, but don't worry, I've got that covered already, and that will be a future project video on my channel. The total cost of this project was around £55, £5 for the chair and £50 in materials, and it took about a day or 7 or 8 hours in total to do. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel for more weekly woodworking videos. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, you can receive early access to my videos, exclusive content, free plans and cut lists, and a name credit at the end of my videos too. Thank you for watching.